Quick announcement before we get to the episode. Today, Friday, February 5th, our new live album called Shredding at Sweetwater is out for sale, and it's also the Bandcamp day, meaning Bandcamp is going to give us 100% of the proceeds. So I know a lot of you guys listen to this podcast the day it comes out, so just go to marbinmusic.bandcamp.com and pick up a digital copy of Marbin Shredding at Sweetwater. It's a live show, recorded very well, and I think you guys will dig it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Real Talk with Marbin. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe. Subscribe! All right, episode 20. Are you excited?
Sí.
Sí.
Hola, amigos. ¿Cómo está?
Bien.
Buenas tardes. Hoy es viernes.
El episodio Los Marbinos.
El día hermoso. Número,
how do you say 20?
20.
Very good. It was a test and you passed.
Don't we have like 20 or something in Starbucks?
20.
Like 20? Was it like 20 ounce?
Makes sense that it would be.
It's in Italiano. I don't speak Italiano yet. After Spanish, maybe.
Maybe one day. Yeah. All right, where are we starting?
Oh. You know what I was thinking? Because I have a crisis that happens once in a while, but it's never been as hard hitting as it is now during Corona.
Yeah.
And it's just not just Corona, but it definitely doesn't help. That I don't know what to take my playing next.
Yeah.
And everything I'm practicing on feels...
I know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah, it feels like it doesn't...
Everything feels like a waste of time.
Yes.
But time wastes regardless.
Yeah, but that's why we're doing the Gypsy Jazz thing. But that was part of the idea, that I could make myself play saxophone without feeling like I'm not doing anything.
Yep.
But it made me think about Gem of the Week and stuff like that. I was wondering, I'm not saying...
For those of you guys who do not know what Gem of the Week is,
even
it's a
before Gem of the Week.
Facebook group that people used to post just whatever themed thing and kind of became a transcribing group.
I had the thought after listening to a few things that people that I know posted.
Okay.
I know them personally, musicians that I know personally, and jazz musicians. And some stuff was live feeds with bands, some stuff was just alone, sometimes was albums they played on, stuff like that. And I was thinking how sloppy it is, but not just how sloppy it is, how many blind spots they have.
Blind spots, you mean?
To their playing, like stuff
just
that they
not aware of themselves.
Yeah, they don't realize some stuff they're doing. And I'm sure, and again, they don't want to play like I do, obviously.
Sure.
But I'm sure that a lot of the stuff that I have to say, they would actually accept. It's like I can't see how not.
You're saying that there's some objective criteria, like rhythmic accuracy or wrong notes.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just like the rhythms that we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can tell somebody, hey, you need to do some more of this, some less of this. And I'm sure that if they'll practice it a little bit, they'll be like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
I should do that. I obviously would never say anything. And that's why I was thinking about Gem of the Week. How in Gem of the Week, people say C&C are welcome, comments and criticisms are welcome.
Uh-huh.
But two things. First of all, they're never welcome.
Of course not.
And
not real ones.
And second thing, because you can see who you're criticizing and they can see you, there is never an honest exchange. Because if I would tell somebody, like I wouldn't tell somebody that plays saxophone or guitar, whatever people would have seen. I wouldn't tell them, hey, stop playing. You're playing too many quarter notes, too many eighth notes. You're not syncopating. You're landing on the beat. You're playing behind the beat. It gives me a panic attack. Right? And I'm saying there is a nicer way to say it, but that's not the point. The point is
that's a pretty nice way.
But the point is that if I tell them that, they would hate me.
Yes.
And because I don't want them, it's not worth it for me
there's nothing to gain other than the momentary satisfaction.
I wouldn't mind making them better because I can, but it's not worth the price of them hating me.
Of course. Yeah. You run across that all the time.
So
students are the exception, that they pay you hypothetically for that. And in reality, a lot of times they just pay you to tell them that they sound good. But the good students, are basically create an environment where they let a critic in, somebody they trust to actually carefully tell them what they're doing wrong. But yeah, it always some low awareness is always the reason you sound bad, because it led you down a path where you weren't able to see the things that needed work, right? You just kind of like, oh, I'm good at playing. I'll just kind of move forward and start making things, and then, you're the craftsmanship of what you're doing has a series of repeating issues. And the truth, I think, about growth and practice is that there is always going to be another layer underneath the layer of flaws if you never took the time to carefully put yourself together with some basics.
Well, you always discover that there are things beyond.
I'm not talking about that, though. I'm sure, like Michael Brecker, who's probably the closest thing to a perfect player that there ever was on saxophone, still has things to work on, of course. But
yeah, like he has a lot of rhythms, for example, that he never touches.
Right. A lot of things to work on, but that's not what I'm talking about. The work never stops, but there is a difference between a proficient player and a non-proficient player. There are these, let's call them something more basic than the basics. Something underneath, stuff about time, stuff about how to produce a sound, stuff about understanding what notes go over what chords.
Michael Brecker is a perfect example, because two things. So first of all, those players are not as good as Michael Brecker, obviously, but they do practice. So I'm not talking about players that are amateur. I'm talking about professional players that practice a lot.
Yeah.
But Brecker is a perfect example, because I'm sure, obviously I'm reaching here, but if Brecker was alive, if I was talking to Brecker and I was telling him, hey, check out this thing that you can do, that you just don't do in your solos, I'm 99.999% sure he'd be like, I got it. And he would immediately put it in his playing.
Right.
So it's like you don't even have to be better than somebody to see something that they don't see about that they're doing. So I'm saying better on the instrument.
Well, I mean, when somebody gives a criticism to like a Marbin solo that I played and say something like, you land on the beat too much, the first thing I do is...
nobody says what types of criticism, so...
Yeah, I know, of course, but hypothetically. But whenever somebody says, does do something, the first thing I do before I defend myself is go and listen and see what they're talking about. And then make my own judgment of, like, whether I feel like that's true. But I'm hyper aware of these things. I think there are whole areas of this whole thing we do that a lot of people sweep under the rug that they call feel, right? Like to say that, I'm an ear player, I play with feeling or whatever. Those kind of mentality, that's just a huge rug that covers up anything you're not willing to break apart. But I will say that I always think about our first drummer touring, Justin, who was a very talented drummer, right? Like also a great showman, and the stuff he played, he played great, and he could play with a click, but there was no analytical ability underneath it. And Jay, the bassist that was with us after Ian, they were both gospel musicians,
and same with Blake. Also, no,
and it does create a problem. Well, Blake is an extreme example, but yes, it creates the problem that you can play, you can sound good in a lot of contexts, but when the question is when the problem arises, when something happens and it's not happening, the thing. Like you listen to whatever, the track, you're playing along with people, if you're in the studio track, if you're playing along with people, you're just playing the song. And you think you're doing a good job, But the people with you, it's not even that they have a different idea. Like, it's just not coming to life. And the question is, what do you do when those moments happen where you're playing let's say you're a guitar player, playing the right chord, you're strumming approximately the right thing, but something is not working.
Yeah, that happens all the time with musicians. That
they think they're grooving.
And they ask you, so what?
So what do you want? Yeah,
what do you
should
want?
I put the 9 on it? It's like, no, you should make it sound good.
Yeah.
It's like, what is it? Is it my gear? Is it my pick? Is it my picking? Is it my? It's the fact that you don't get it.
Yeah,
you know, it's like this feel. Like, I'm not saying you can't play anything. You're a piece of shit. That could also happen, but it's not what I'm saying in this particular instance. Let's take a musician that can play the shit out of rock, but the moment a swing groove comes, it just doesn't swing. Right? You're not awakening that feeling.
Yeah, it's what we talked about grooving too. That I always think, when do those people? We talked about it with not when somebody's playing and they don't convey the groove correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when does it happen? The first note, the second note.
Right.
It's like, when do you start sucking?
Well, that's the thing. That's why you need friends. You need actual friends that will tell you when it's not happening. If you don't know on your own, you know, a lot. So we all have that friend that's posting videos that are just embarrassing.
You see, so I'm curious, but I'm curious if there are even saxophone players that can tell me something that I don't realize.
Oh, that they're holding back about you out of politeness?
Well, not that they're holding back. I'm not saying they don't like my playing, because I know there are some that somehow don't like my playing.
I get what you're saying, that they have ideas
But they have an idea that would actually make sense. That I would be like, oh, that actually makes sense. Because it's something I don't know. Because they might and they might not. Most people probably don't. Right? 99.99% of people don't. And again, doesn't mean that somebody has to be better at me at anything. It just means that they see one small piece of music in a way that I somehow missed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have a place where you can anonymously post a clip of music and have anonymous people, like Jam of the Week? That's how I thought about Jam of the Week, but without the profiles.
Oh, just honest.
Yeah, moderated. So if somebody's just being a dick, you can kick him out, but
you with a video of you?
No,
or
not
just,
a video, just audio. Just audio.
To where you actually would get better.
Yeah.
To where you actually go there for the criticism, not for the accolades.
Yes. So nobody knows who you are. You don't, you're not saying who you are.
Do you know how confident and tough you need to be on a thing like that? It will literally be you. The problem with everybody shitting on you.
The problem is with somebody like me that they would figure out it's me immediately.
Yeah.
And then, but if they don't, if I don't know who they are, they can say whatever they want.
In a fantasy world where people actually want to get better and are confident enough to, it's funny. Most people would just get in the exercise of producing that sample, would take like 1,000 takes and then probably edit them and correct them and just go for the accolades, and it would immediately be overrun by people just trying to like impress people rather than people trying to get better.
But you don't, because you don't get, no likes. I wouldn't put likes on it.
I see.
No vote out. No.
So your utopia is just kind of like
no, I'm saying
a version of Facebook that's just lame.
No, it's not. No, it's not utopia. It's just a tool for musicians to get better.
It's a great idea. I mean,
I think I talked to you about it before. But there is an issue that we just don't do music in the same way, in a way that we were supposed to be doing it. Again, I'm sorry, I know, like everybody that starts something new, you talk about all the time. So for me, it's jiu-jitsu because I just started, so I'm talking about it all the time. But you roll every time you do it. Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Every time you do it, you roll.
Experience. That's the real thing.
Yeah. And it's not that you can't, there are not something that can, that can fuck up with your perception. Because if you do it in the same place, you end up knowing the same things, and maybe somebody from a different gym can come and kick your ass with less experience, right? I'm not saying nothing can happen, but at least you're putting yourself to the test against other people. Mm-hmm. And the same thing to me could happen with music. If we had a jam that a lot of saxophone players would play every time, I can see myself, we talked about it once, I can see myself actually figuring some shit out. It's like the guy that we talked about in the last podcast episode, that he did in the last podcast. Do we call them episodes?
Yeah.
So the last podcast episode that he was touring with us and he played saxophone and he didn't want to admit that he liked my playing. And he didn't want to admit that he has so much stuff to learn from me. But as time went on, he just started doing stuff I was doing.
Licks.
Like very obviously.
Yeah.
Right? It's time doing stuff I was doing. Because when you see something in person, it's just, you can't ignore it.
You see what works and what doesn't work on other people, and you naturally start taking the stuff that works.
Exactly, and you pay attention in a different way.
Yeah, I mean.
So it's just we don't have it with music, and it sucks.
Yeah, but the jams. I don't know. I'm brought back to I went a lot to gypsy jams when I was, I guess, in 2018. Not a lot, but I'd say a few times a year.
5 times?
No, I would say I was there like 10 times, but, and it was mostly it was fun to drink and just, like hang out and play these tunes. But I never felt super inspired to do anything, because for me it was mostly just sitting around and waiting for other people's solos to be over, that were just hitting God help them, the notes they were hitting, and in gypsy jazz it's even more extreme, because the pros don't know harmony and are just playing like licks that are mostly in, but the amateurs, they have no clue what notes fit. Yeah, it's just a lot of these situations are just such chaos and so many rhythm guitars happening at once.
Yeah, but there's something you have to remember, and that's what happened in the world of jam, that the professionals are they don't do them anymore.
No, they don't. I was the closest thing to a professional there. Everybody there, none of them made.
Well, you're a professional.
Music for. No, I know I'm a professional, but none of them. I'm not a professional gypsy jazz player, I meant. But none of these people made any money or...
Yeah, but you're a professional guitarist.
I know.
You're also a professional jazz guitarist. It's not like you're not playing rock and when you're going to play gypsy jazz. It's like you're using the same language. I'm saying that those people, they shy away from the situations. Mm-hmm. Like none of the top... I told you, I went to a ton, like 5. I went to a few jam sessions, and just nobody in the scene goes to jam sessions.
That actually can play anything. Yeah. It was bizarre. It's funny that like even when we went to like a jazz club, like there was a place in Rogers Park, great place. I don't know how they're surviving this, called La Piano. It's like a jazz bar.
Are they surviving it?
I'm not sure.
I want to say it's still open. It's closed. So
yeah, it's closed, and they
didn't change names.
Yeah. And they had music every night, but I always felt like when we came and played, like all the people that work there, and the guy that owns it is a musician, and he plays there all the time.
He said it was the best. Best time.
Yeah, they would always like close the place and just like listen. They wouldn't even want to play with us, just listen to us. Very, very weird. It's almost, people shy away from those competitive / from the judgment, from the real life. I mean, we constantly talk about that, right? In the context of the world of content versus what we call the real world of playing. But yeah, I don't know. The whole notion of growing and of each day attempting to get better at actually playing, right? This is the thing that's incredible to me about recording. Just recording nonstop since the moment you start playing. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine like if I just
such a waste of time.
Well, what are you recording? I mean,
you record and play, and
yeah, but like there's no. I think it creates a really bad continuum where you need to step out of the spotlight sometimes and work some shit out, right? There needs all the time. There needs to be gaps between project and project, or at least the projects can't be of the same genre, or it's just kind of like it's like watching water boil or something, or it never. Well, that's not a good example, but it's almost like the change needs to accumulate, right? Yeah. For me, each Marbin album really has I feel ready for them, not just when we write a new batch of songs, or rather when we toured before COVID, we would dump a whole batch of songs after we were finished with them. For those of you guys who don't know our methodology of how we worked in the band for years now, is that we would write basically our set. We would write an hour of music or an hour and a half of music, mostly actually an hour of music, and then play some 2 or 3 songs from a different album. But nowadays it's the whole thing. And then we would go out on the road and just play the new music. It's on no record, right? It's absolutely new for us, and we'd work it out. Some sections wouldn't work. We'd talk about it in the van. We'd take them out. Some sections would work great. Maybe we needed another chorus. Maybe the changes weren't good. Maybe a part isn't working. So over time, it would change. And then when our set started feeling really good, we'd go to the studio for 2 or 3 days and knock out the album, just all playing live, and maybe do a slight amount of overdubs. But on Strong Thing, we didn't. We just did takes the whole band. And it doesn't even take that long because we really know how to play the music. And in that year, we've played those solos, like hundreds of times, and in different ways and through different reincarnations of the tunes, different tempos. Sometimes we take things slower, faster, different changes. And by the time we're in the studio, what we're capturing is where we're at with it. But there was a whole process of transformation from the last album, because we all really had to learn how to play these new songs together. And it's really the opposite of how a pop album is made, which is you dream up the song in the studio, you immediately start tracking, and you start building it from scratch. You start with a click track, maybe record some rhythm, guitars, bass, and drums, start throwing in shaker parts, start throwing layering,
Shaker parts. It's a pop album of 70s maybe.
I don't know.
What else do you do? Real
Tupac.
Strings, Tupac.
Yeah, but we're in the upside down now. Everything is done backwards, and I don't know, man. I was going on a YouTube dive. Somehow this girl YouTuber guitar player started popping up on my feed. She was doing collaborations with other YouTubers. I went down a rabbit hole I shouldn't have, and I was just curious because she sang and played guitar. And when you watch
what kind of music?
Like John Mayer kind of girly thing. And when you watch her, she sounds very in tune. It sounds like okay music.
John Mayer sings kind of girly things.
I know, girlier than that. She looks like she's good, but then you listen to the albums, and it's such bad pop.
You have a lot of musicians that are like that now.
It's such bad music. You know what I mean?
A lot of musicians look like they play well, and then you just
when
listen.
you watch them and they sing kind of in tune, and the tone is nice, and you don't expect it because it's just a person in their room, and then it just sounds really professional, tracked well, and then you just sit down and listen to it the way you listen to music.
Without looking.
Yeah, without looking. Just listen to it like as if it's a song. It's like, why am I listening to this fucking piece of shit? There's nothing in here. It's just like she's singing about her fucking boyfriend.
Same thing happens to me with transcribed solos, that I like looking at the solo, but a lot of times, even Breaker has a solo that I saw it and I was like, oh my god, it's one of the best Breaker solos. And I was like, wait, I know that solo. And I was like, oh, that's not one of the best Breaker solos. I tried to listen to it without looking. It's like, that's really not really one of his standout solos.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying it wasn't good, but it definitely wasn't that good. But looking at it is just, I love seeing it on the paper.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, it's admiring how well a recepe's written for a dish you can't stand, or a dish is
but it's not like I can stand it, but it's like I love seeing the architecture of a solo.
It's interesting.
Of somebody that can play, right? Because a lot of people, you see it and obviously it's boring just from looking at it. Mm-hmm. But with people that actually have some shit going on, even if musically it's not their best solo, it's interesting to look at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I don't know. For me, these days, I'm a big fan of great lyrics. Big fan. Love it. Like, really, when it's happening. That is so not happening right now on any level.
I think it's because it stopped happening once the lyricist and the composer became the same person.
No, Leonard Cohen is an exception.
I'm not saying that none of them, but I'm saying
on a grand
it used
scale.
to be on a grand scale.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I would
look at Israeli music. So Israeli music used to be great basically until that happened.
Yeah, that was a split that was tragic. We'll get into that in a second. But all I want to say about that is it's almost that the attempt is gone now. I don't feel like people are trying. And I think it's that attempt became something we've touched on before, which is things that are like things, but you can't do it with lyrics.
The last great lyricist, I think, is Bentel Orensky, but he has a great song. You don't even have to call me back.
It is a great song, but it lacked star power.
You texted me an emoji of a heart attack. You don't even have to call me back.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Great lyrics.
Yeah, but when you're dealing with things that are like things, I feel like that's what a lot of people are trying to do when they're writing. They're trying to write words that sound like a successful song.
Yeah, for sure. And, oh my God, there's somebody posted about Ariana Grande.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who she is?
Yes.
I don't know what she looks like, but I know she's a person in pop.
Uh-huh.
And I read the lyrics, because he posted the lyrics and he said he felt also something. Great? It's also about her fucking.
Oh, everybody's fucking.
It's on basically now, yeah. It's what was so successful. All the other hoes are like, look, I'm a hoe too. Look.
Yeah, she's not the only one with a wet pussy. I got a wet pussy.
It's so embarrassing.
Yeah, it is embarrassing. Yeah, but that's kind of like taking it to the grotesque extreme. But just songs about like your boyfriend or about being lonely without saying anything. Listen, it's not a novel. You don't need to be from the literary world, and a lot of people from the literary world don't understand things about meter and about the symmetry of lines that you need to actually apply poetry to song form. That's a very specific skill. But I was thinking about this. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I was listening to some slam poetry, a style which I despise deeply.
You got slammed.
Yeah.
That's how we call slam poetry.
Which is to my ear, it sounds like they're using alliteration and rhyming to throw rhythm into it, but it's not metered, right? It's random rhythm, like pa 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 pa.
It gets into things.
You get into a pattern and you break the pattern, but you use these either alliteration or rhyming to create repetition, which is not bad in its own right, but I don't know. I actually really like poetry. Like, I'm into it. I really have read. I know who my favorites are. I like Robert Frost. I like Bukowski. I like Leonard Cohen. But there. I actually sit there and do this recreationally, and poetry. There's a great definition of it. They say it's like the social act of the solitary man. Gendered speech, but this is Yeats. Yeah. But there is something about it, right? To me, that's the art form that's the closest you can get to kind of breaking out of your own shell in a way, like where one person's words kind of meet another. You're somehow drawing people into the exact way you're feeling, and it has a way of like getting to a place where music can't, and also getting to a place where narrative certainly can't. Like, your story doesn't do this thing. It's more like a very direct line. And there's been zero attempt to insert this thing. Like, the attempt to just do something that sounds like the exterior of something leads you to a totally different place. And but yeah, what you were talking about with Israeli music is something I'm sure our listeners know very little about, but up till, when would you say, the 70s?
Even 80s.
80s.
Even a lot of people in the 80s still had people write their lyrics for
Well,
them.
there were two modes of production in Israel. There was Shirei Meshorerim, which means like the songs of poets. That was a trend to where composers...
No, but even people like Yonatan Geffen or something like that. You had a lot of poets also that wrote specifically so the songs will become...
No, I'm saying that there was the two styles. So one style was that a composer would take a poetry book and just, put
music to it.
Put music to it after it was written. Sometimes it was like 20, 30-year-old poetry. So the poets coming from Europe that really... Now, there was a big boom in Israel because basically everybody moved there from Europe in the, mainly in the beginning of the 20th century, and from all over the Middle East and all over Europe. And Hebrew was a dead language up until...
Yeah, so we didn't have everybody, but everybody, not just Europe, from all the Arab countries, everybody moved there and started speaking Hebrew.
Yeah, and they didn't have, like, all of... Bialik is, like, the most famous national poet, and what he was really doing is he was giving people words that were... It was such a modern attempt to, like, kind of capture the... Either for children or for adults, like, the... day-to-day, just something that's relevant to life, not just Bible stuff.
Well, there was also no art.
Right.
Basically.
And so they were generating culture in a very short... very short span of time. So like from the late 1800s till, I would say, the 1940s, there was a huge boom of poetry in Israel, and a lot of great stuff, and a lot of just, the kind of writing that's just very confessional and introspective and makes for good songs. And a lot of people in the 60s, 70s started composing that. So that was one thing. And a lot of our music has this sort of archaic language built into it to where it feels older than time because of the way, you're really adapting the words of a couple generations ago to whatever your harmonic, melodic vocabulary is. And then there was the actual collaboration between living literary people and living composers to generate pop. And this did happen in the States, right? There's maybe not so many Frost poems that are composed well. Like this first mode of production didn't really happen in the States.
Yeah, but the second thing happened a lot.
Second thing
American
was
Songbook.
American Songbook. Tim Pat Alley. The whole idea was to get like the Gershwins or whoever. It was this collaboration between people who actually knew a lot about writing clever words and people who knew a lot about writing clever melodies and harmonies. And it was really working for a while here for
Isn't
like
Elton
20, 30
John
years.
Same thing?
Elton John is the same thing, yeah. But I think you're right that you need to be an exceptional musician and poet to really, there's not a whole lot of people who could do this other thing, which is combine the two roles. So Leonard Cohen, I would say, is a great example for somebody who could in the beginning, and even though his lyrics never suffered, like for this whole career, but yeah,
he got to the end of music.
He got to the place where I feel like he stopped writing the melodies, or even attempting to write the melodies. A lot of it kind of became more spoken word, or the melodies became oversimplistic, and the production became not his. He was influenced by his surroundings, and got with I'm Your Man, everything got really synthy. Yeah. And up till that point with the acoustic stuff,
this album still has great melodies, but a little bit afterwards, it's already
He had a great sense for it, but it got more like speaking the more his career progressed. Yeah. And in the beginning, there are things like Suzanne is a great example of what kind of genius melody you can have to where there's not a fucking single rhyme in that song, but the way. The interaction between melody and how it's laid out in rhythm allows or disallows rhymes. Yeah. Rhymes are things that indicate symmetry. But if you think about Suzanne, for those of you who know it, each line ends on beat 2, and it creates no need for rhyme, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, Suzanne, takes you down to her place by the river, right? So it's like all ending on upbeats. And because of that, there's enough symmetry in the way the lines are laid out in time, just the rhythmic values, to where you don't actually need to rhyme. Lets him tell this beautiful story without worrying about that constraint. And he had a lot of clever shit like that, and I'm not sure he was aware of from the perspective of analyzing melody, but he was so connected to the way it comes out and to the lyrics that he knew obviously what works and what doesn't work. So that's one example. But I do think you still, I mean, you need to be like a Paul Simon or a Sting, to where clearly they're really decent.
But think about this though. I'm going to give you two musical examples, okay? If you, not two, like one musical example. If you're an arranger, let's say you look at our songs, and let's say we hired an arranger.
Yeah.
Okay? Then he would do much more than we do, because that's not our job is just to create the music, and we do nice arrangements, right? And nice second lines, and nice counterpoint, and we do stuff in our music. But if your job is only to arrange, then you're gonna arrange the shit out of it.
Right.
Right? A lot of times you probably will do too much.
Yeah, you're gonna take it to a place where.
But you wanna put your thumb on it. You want your print on it.
Well, where it makes sense to hire you. Nobody gets paid a lot of money and invests the energy to just like, just play a second line here. The saxophone would be nice.
Yeah, you'll be like, hey, let's get this instrument. Let's do a little bit of that. Let's do this thing. Let's change that go. Like you would do, again, arrange the share of it. And that's the same thing with lyrics. If you have one person that does one aspect of the music, he will really try his best to shine through with his part.
Yeah.
Like you would really care about, like I don't think, I wouldn't know, but I'm guessing that Sting doesn't really care, didn't think about the lyrics and were like, oh my God, people will be like, I'm such a genius poet.
Right.
I think it was like, that's an awesome song.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was thinking about.
Yep.
Just and looking the at subject is awesome and everything, it's awesome song, like as a whole. But, his lyrics a lot of times are very silly.
Yeah.
Paul Simon, same thing. A lot of times his lyrics are very silly. And if you had, I'm not saying you can't do bad job being just the person that writes the lyrics. But you would probably fail more colossally. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I still remember that, like, when I was at Berkeley, I was studying a little bit with Jamie Haddad, who ended up playing on a few of our albums, and he plays percussion with Paul Simon, and he kept, like, just really praising Paul Simon. And Paul Simon is great, but old Paul Simon, I think, is not so great. I really stopped after really the 80s.
No, you say old Paul Simon is great.
Yeah, old Paul Simon is great. I meant him in his old age is not good. But Jamie kept saying, it's like, it's amazing. Like, we're in the studio and like we have ideas, and then he comes and he's like, no, and you can't say no to him because he's Paul Simon. He clearly knows how to make a hit and what works. So, and what do we know? And it's like, and he can just look out the window and make a song about anything. And I was just thinking, it's like, maybe you should do like less of that. Like, there's a lot of songs like, there's cars are cars.
Cars are cars all over the world. Similarly bought, similarly sold. Made, similarly sold. It's like,
it's like, dude, maybe...
Pigs are what?
Pigs are pigs.
Pigs, what do you say? What do you say?
I don't know.
Pigs are pigs are fat.
Pigs don't like to be held like that.
Pigs are supposed to be fat like that. I don't know, something weird.
Yeah, it's like, this dude needs to fucking stop looking out the window. I think you should try closing your eyes again, Paul. It really worked great in the Garfunkel days. So yeah, but Leonard, man, he just, to me, just never missed the mark. And there was something about...
But what happened to a lot of people, Chris Christopherson too, there is something about becoming such a millionaire in such an early age that I think just destroys you artistically.
Yeah, there's a certain... like the catastrophe of this whole thing is that you could be elevated out of the position that you really had an interesting angle in, especially for these people who are sensitive people singing about day-to-day things.
Yeah, a lot of
you
them
have to still remain in that day-to-day.
A lot of them, to me, and you can think about who you want, because I think it's happened to a lot of people. I think they become preachy once they get really successful.
Well, yeah, and also they need
just telling people how they're supposed to.
I mean, it's just hard to this whole genre, this whole thing that blossomed out of the 60s. Something about the authentic experience is really essential to it, right? I don't think that's true for the music of 20 years before that, right? All of me, why not take everything's grandiose. You feel like you're in a movie.
Yeah, it's over the top.
And so I feel like you can write things that are not, that don't need the pretense, that don't have the pretense of being of your life, of a confession, of the structure of your psyche. You're free to always make shit like that
like
up.
Chris Christopherson songs is about him with drunks and junkies and about
and I'm sure he was there.
Failure.
Or I'm sure he was close enough to it to where he would see it, but then he
was
lost.
At least around him.
Yes. And or the imagination was around him, but it feels probably ridiculous to write the junkie, the juiced minus me after you finish a cocktail party drinking Cristal.
Or the devil.
To beat the devil.
To beat the devil, yeah.
Right. So, all of that stuff just probably seems so distant for these people that they feel like a sham writing it, so they don't even look at that direction. But what they do is, I don't know, listen.
Like looking at bigger problems.
What they do is probably listen to, it's like, go to a fundraiser. And it's like, I'll write a song about the issues.
Well, I was thinking specifically, like, he has that song. It's not a terrible song, but Jesus was Capricorn.
Yeah.
It was like, this is really Jesus. Like, Jesus was a hippie.
Right.
It's like, you guys don't get it. All you people think you don't get Jesus. Jesus liked organic food.
Right.
Like, and that song is not terrible, but I'm saying
that's
it's
early
not,
Christopherson, though.
It's not that early.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that type of song. I know what I'm saying. It's still not that bad.
Yeah. No, he really took a nosedive, man. And I'm a huge fan. I think he's really one of, certainly top 5 of all time.
I love his good songs are just my favorite songs. Like, as far as lyrics song, I just love how he does stuff. It's so good. But
also, he's like the best terrible singer.
Yeah.
Like, everything totally communicates the song, and you forgive the fact that he has like 3 good
It's not
notes.
like Bob Dylan, which is annoying.
No, shit. I can't stand that dude.
I know. But
I do like, for those of you who are Dylan fans, there is one thing that is the absolute best thing Bob Dylan ever did by a mile. It's called Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie. It's like a 6-minute poem. I think it's really the beginning of slam poetry in a way.
A lot of a lot of Bob Dylan I like. I like a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
And I actually do like a lot of the lyrics. Again, he just had so much stuff.
It's very high school. It's like the angst that he's
Well, depends
feeling.
what. Yeah, so some stuff I really feel like didn't age well. Like his first album, I used to like it when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Like high school and stuff, Freewheeling, like Masters of War and all that stuff. Like
Masters
now
of
I'm
War
like, it's so childish.
Yeah.
But he was also a child when he did it.
Yeah.
So it's gonna make sense.
And again, he was riding high on the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the fact that like people are so upset that he went electric. It just seems so silly. Like that there were folk people like, you're betraying us. You're betraying us. Don't plug in. It's like, really? It's like people used to care about things like that?
It did become much worse.
Yeah.
Like, you think my voice is annoying, just check out my band.
Dude, the band, I still
People
listen.
love that band so much.
For the life of me, they're like the greatest. They're the greatest rock and roll band. It's like, why? Like, I listen to them and I just like, it just sounds like high people jamming. Are they really? Do they have such an amazing feel? Like, what else did they do except for like ruin Bob Dylan's like ruined music?
I liked Bob Dylan more before he went electric too.
It's not my thing. I mean,
no, I don't listen to it now, but I'm saying I do like it more than the electric stuff. But again, I'm not his fan, so maybe other people have a better perspective on Bob Dylan than me.
Yeah.
He has some good songs, and I do like.
I feel like he really, if he spent, and this might seem like conceited, statement.
5 minutes editing his songs.
5 minutes editing his songs. Like they could have been more timeless.
Yeah, I just like a lot of his lyrics. I like how he rhymes stuff, but he makes it so it's just natural. It just feels like it's supposed to be.
He bends language.
Like
right?
in
a light I never knowed.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's just the entire thing. He has so many rhymes and so many small things happening, but they feel natural and not forced.
Right.
Like he really is swimming in it. But yeah. But again, it's like you don't have a lot of us people. And what happens when you have one person that does something? It's like everybody else. Everybody is like, oh, I can do this alone?
Right.
I don't have to split the money. I don't have to, if we split up, to still pay somebody. And I don't have to worry about what they feel like. I don't know. It's just, it's weird coming from Marbin because we're so, our career is completely only Marbin. Mm-hmm. But I just don't, I'm not into it. But I'm not into it also, one of the reasons with we both of us decided to play together the way we do is because we both of us are more into bands than into one person just being, hey,
this is me.
Me and my lackeys.
Yeah.
It's like, this is us and our lackeys. This makes much more sense, but it does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems to me like way too hard on one person to carry this thing.
Yeah, and
a bummer too.
And if we ever succeed and make money, then we at least we'll have each other to be like, hey, don't write a song about cars and pigs. At least try to say something about it.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the point I was getting to is what are you trying to do here? You know what? Like there's writing an objectively good song. Let's take that off the table, for the moment. So that's true. That's what you're trying to do on one level. But like when you're writing words, I just feel so much of the time, if the attempt is just to fill it up with something that sounds like a song that works, then you have missed. You had the stage. You know what I mean? People stop their busy lives and listen to you. Like, how are you going to help these people? It's like Bukowski, the poem you always quote. It's like it's one paragraph, right? That after you read it, you know more about life than you did before. It's an incredible thing that poetry can do, right? Because what was it? You always say it. There are worse things than being alone, but sometimes it takes years to find that out, and by that time it's too late, and there's nothing worse than being too late. Yeah. Right?
Bukowski generally, I feel like he says a lot of stuff that you feel and know, but that's the best
you
stuff.
don't have the words for it.
But you don't have the words for it. Exactly.
That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. And it's weird, you know. And I hate that. I always quote Thomas Sowell, but
the generations of drunk idiots that came after Bukowski.
Well, Bukowski's. I mean, people. The shell. Yeah, people always take the stupidest lesson from somebody. It's like, oh, I love Bukowski. I'm gonna get hammered.
You know what I don't understand?
Shit on myself.
You know what's funny to me? I met so many people like that, but like, oh, Bukowski, I'm gonna drink every night. I've never met any of those people that worked in the post office every day. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not like, I'm gonna get drunk, but I'm also gonna have a day job that's gonna suck the life out of me every day.
The one bit of the process they miss is I'm gonna stay up all night and write poetry.
Yeah, but again, and have a day job in the morning, that's actually a real job that I hate, and then go gamble the money away. But it's, yeah, but they only taken that one part that they want.
Right. It's ridiculous. I was talking about the post office. I just, we printed Russian dolls and 10 Years in the Sun, and I had to go with 80 mailers.
We have like 5 left. So
yeah, we had. Yeah, by the time this comes out, I don't know if we'll have any left, but check. I had to go to the post office. Jesus fucking Christ! I mean, I don't know if you guys ever went to USPS.
Every time Danny goes to the post office, like, recites me a poem. He's open with Bukowski, but the next Bukowski is in the post office.
Jesus Christ, man.
How funny it is if one of them is Bukowski. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine the person is like, oh, fuck.
They are not. let me stop you there. They are not Bukowski. I had about 40 packages to send abroad to like Italy, Spain, France, all over Europe. And when you do that, you have to fill out a customs form. And the process that they have to do now with COVID, there's an extra step too. Is that first of all, they take the customs, they have to type the entire address into the computer. Some of these German addresses, like the words have like 35 characters.
That's what makes you a libertarian. When you have to fill customs forms, you're like, oh, we don't need customs. Just send it.
Exactly. So anyways, so that's step one. Step two is they have to like print labels and put it on. Step three, now they have to like take this plastic bag and put the customs form in and glue it to the thing for COVID. Anyways, this fucking lady in front of me, man. I mean, she was such a low IQ individual that it was like the fucking, you know, when you read patterns, even in a foreign language, like a name like Luigi, you know, you can suck it up with your eyes in one chunk and just write Luigi. But she was going one letter at a time. And these things, L-U-I-G, for the whole thing. And the whole time she was trying to get me to call her a cunt. She was like, I can't. It's like you run a business through the post office. You can't do this at home. It's like,
I don't understand the thing.
Are you trying to run a business?
Do it at home?
Yeah.
In my Amazon, they have like Marbin trucks going around, like sending packages.
She's trying to get me to lose it. You know, she's just trying to like get me to call her a cunt so she can like, you know, throw me out of the line and doesn't have to do it. Anyway, it took like 15 minutes per package. I was there for fucking
about
hours.
Your poetry when you send in my packages.
Jesus Christ. So the point is, none of them were Bukowski. But what I was trying to get to with the lyrics is
Okay, I was trying to say it's just a little bit stretched.
That's fine. What I'm trying to get to with the lyrics is that you need to try to, it's just like writing a melody. You need to try to get something happening. Stir it up. Like, you know, do something good. Do something that's moving. It doesn't have to be a confession. It doesn't have to be about your exact feelings. It just needs to have some, you know, something in it that's valuable, that's heavy. You
need to pay a lot of attention to every part of it. And again, people just don't.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
Let me go forward a little bit because it's
Anyways, what were we talking about before the lyrics?
I don't know. How frustrated I was with, that there was no way to get. But I wonder if now people will be like, "Hey, Dan, you should do this," and then next podcast will be like, "Oh my God!"
Please, everybody, please stop talking about my playing.
You guys don't know anything about saxophone.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the one thing that I asked on my Facebook? I was like, hey, who are the saxophone players that you guys know that play the most differently than other people? Mm-hmm. And people posted people that are like, dude, there's nothing different about how they play.
Right.
It's like there's nothing. They play the exact same shit that everybody else is playing. It's like you're not even trying. Mm-hmm. Like I get put Sam Nielsen, put Derek Brown, somebody said Zone, even though Zone doesn't really play differently. It's like his music is stupider, but the playing, it's like as a saxophone player, it's really
same.
Not. It's not even the same. It's nothing. It's like it's not.
Same as avant-garde guys.
Yeah.
He does have one trick I like.
When he bites the.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
he knows how to do that.
But it doesn't have tons of stuff, Mm-hmm. That's very different if you listen to his stuff in Masada. So
it's so weird for me. Like I always go back to listening to the most famous people.
Yeah,
like Louis Armstrong.
That's the only thing. Parker. Me too. But that's why. Because I'm like, okay, maybe if I listen to some other people, I can check out some stuff. But people,
it's the lie. It's the lie that the New York people spread about people of that era, so people will look at them. You know what I mean? They were like, oh, the real talent's at the fringe. Like, why are you listening to like Oscar Peterson?
No. I'm not looking
what
for
about
what
about this fucking guy?
Yeah, but I'm not looking for somebody that's better than Charlie Parker. I'm looking for somebody that does one thing well enough.
Well, you found that one dude. What was his name? Something with a B?
Bostic. Earl.
Yeah, Earl Bostic. Fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy player.
Yeah, they all said barely anything.
Yeah, he wouldn't. We talked about this. He wouldn't record. he wouldn't play into the can because that's how people stole your shit. And
Well,
it was
because
all
the
about
money,
live.
yeah, exactly, because the money was playing live, so he didn't want to record it, so people would figure out what it's doing.
Isn't that amazing that some things could just disappear? Like there's just no record. I always feel like that about Django videos. Like there's only one video. It really works for you too.
But you see,
creates
I
a
love
mythology.
recordings. I love recordings. Most of my relationship with music, and definitely with music that I like, was recording.
Mm-hmm.
But it's terrible for music.
Recording?
Exactly like we're talking now about Spotify and streaming. It fucking sucks. You know how sometimes we would meet old people on the road that didn't figure out YouTube.
Yeah.
And they weren't good, but they were better. We met this trumpet player. Remember that female trumpet player? Where was it? In Kentucky, maybe?
Not sure.
Do you remember that we met a guy that reminded us of Dan?
Yeah, of course, in Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah.
Lexington.
It was outside of, it was when we were, not in Lexington, it was in the city.
Yeah, we went to his
like Richmond,
we played in his
maybe.
backyard.
Yeah, I don't remember what he looks like now and how we met him and anything. Do you
He
remember
looks
him?
like Dan. One time we played with him. Oh, yeah, we met him in a music shop when the girl gave me a
Yes.
tortoise shell pick.
Yes, that girl. And she played trumpet.
Yeah.
I don't play trumpet. No, but she played trumpet and she was good.
Yeah.
But it was this kind of thing that, and we met a couple people like that are older and can do
That
it.
could really play some swing. Like it was like Dixieland. You
It
could play
doesn't have to be
Dixieland.
things. It can be writing songs and can be just playing some.
Well, Jack Motley.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant songwriter.
Yeah.
Like, again, he actually really liked one of my songs. It was like, I had a real moment because he was like, that's a well-crafted song. And I almost cried. But he wrote, he has a song, I let her play with my wah-wah. It was so fucking funny.
he had a lot of stuff. It's great.
Hilarious songs.
But-
Great songwriter.
But there is this type of people that music to them was mostly live still or some records, and they just figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, we figured something out that works by playing a lot and by being around.
It's amazing because these people, they never had to get the experience to become, even for their art, to blossom into something of the scale of a Chris Christopherson as a songwriter or Louis Armstrong as a trumpet player. But that little thing they do is so good when you're one-on-one with them.
Well, I would say this. It's people don't understand it because of the shit that you guys read in the papers or on Twitter. Paper, nobody reads articles now. But the shit you see on Twitter and on CNN, you guys don't get it. But all the American people are the same. And it's not just like American people. It's like everybody's the same now. Everybody has internet. Everybody has the same stupid news. Everybody has the same stupid shit that you see on YouTube. You consume the same stuff.
Well, it's like when you see a fucking married couple and you're like, they kind of look alike. Well, it's like they eat the same shit every meal. You know what I mean? Like like a lot of people kind of start. It affects how you actually are, the things you consume. So artistically too, and media-wise too.
And well, everybody's just the same. It used to be that you have a killer guitar player. Let's say you have Danny in his town in Tel Aviv, and everybody's talking about, dude, there's this killer guitar player in Tel Aviv, and everybody around him starts stealing shit from him because that's where they got it.
And that becomes
and then
the
one
style
person,
of the place.
Yeah, and then one person goes somewhere else and they see it. And every place has their own thing. And if you had a killer something, like killer anything in your town, you usually would have a few killer
And it used
players.
to be more geographic like that, and then people would come there to see it.
Yeah.
You know.
And now it's just there is no such thing as geography. It's like you don't go again because everybody's saying there is no saxophone player right now that doesn't know all the saxophone players.
Right.
Like all of them.
Well, I'm really curious to see how this next generation of music theorists that have learned it from Rick Beato is going to turn into. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah, but the point is, whatever it's gonna turn into, we're all gonna turn into it together.
I mean, I was always amazed when we were touring and going to the small towns in Mississippi and stuff that this was the same people talking about the same things. They looked the same too, like the hipsters with the tattoos and the coffee
it's
shops
the same
and
people.
the fancy
It's literally
espresso.
the same people.
It's like Biloxi, Mississippi, and New York City. Same people. Like there was, and it's funny. They're like, the funniest thing is that they were waging the same culture war too against the locals.
Yeah.
It was the same people there. It's like, oh, the fucking rednecks in Mississippi.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was the people in Mississippi, saying it to the other people in Mississippi. It's just literally the same people everywhere. There was no difference.
Yeah, same thing on the other side in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get just as big rednecks here as you get everywhere.
Oh, of course. Illinois. There's no place more south than Indiana.
No, but even in the city, like I live in the kind of one of the fancy neighborhoods in Milwaukee, now called Bayview, and the guy across the alley from me has a auto shop in his parking garage, and we have another guy like that. So you can find people of everywhere. But I'm saying, still, everybody consumes the same, and you consume the same, your output is the same. And the advantage of it is the general level might be higher in the sense that everybody now can, especially young people, can record a video that looks fine. And they know how to work with audio, and they know how to do a lot of stuff that older people have no clue about.
Right.
But the bad thing about it was everybody's the fucking same.
Yeah. It's I don't know why it just reminded me of this. Do you remember the bass guy I told you about? The young kid who kind of plays like Victor Wooten.
Oh no,
does not really play like Victor Wooten, but he keeps posting like clickbaity shit.
Oh yes. I didn't know it was a real person.
Yeah, dude, it's like he made a video. I hate that I'm always reacting to these things, but I watch them and I get so deeply appalled, and this is the only place I can talk about it. My wife does not care. And he made this video about like the 10 things you need to do to master music.
Oh, I know which guy it is. It's the guy that you told me. Of course, he's a real guy.
Dude,
okay. He's not that young, is it? 20-something?
Like 20 and a little bit.
Yeah, he's
like
a kid,
22.
I guess.
Yeah. Maybe less. I think maybe 20. Anyway, he looks young. He looks like he's 16. But that doesn't matter. The hubris. The fucking hubris, man. It's insane. Because, he figured out how to rip off, like, the technique of one dude and do it kind of okay with no context.
Not great.
Not great, but no context. Like, he's playing solo bass with tons of reverb, It's like,
you know what it reminds me of? I don't think it was him. He did something similar to it. The guy that did 82 bass techniques in one bass solo.
Yeah.
It's like left, one finger, two fingers, three fingers technique, alternating fingers technique, Yeah. It's like, this is so stupid. I remember seeing it and I was like, why do people share it? This is so stupid.
I don't know, because in my mind, I would think that everybody's getting as triggered as I am, but I know that's not true. A lot of people just think it's great life advice, but the level of ego behind it and the level of like low awareness, I just find it so maddening that I can't stop watching. I love it. I love videos like that. It's
what, like with the bass technique thing?
It's just
puke.
It's to start generating this content, like how to be amazing at everything. You know what I mean? 3 easy steps to playing perfect solos on the guitar. It's like, Jesus, it's just so stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, who buys this shit? That like this fucking kid can give you some advice, like this toddler, and you're like, it's literally a child trying to speak to adults about all he's achieved on Instagram. You know what I mean? 10 easy steps to become me. But is
it adults or the people that you're really talking to are kids? I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. It's very... I don't care very much, very deeply. It's just looking at it from the outside.
Left hand tapping, right hand tapping. Hammer-ons. Hammer-switcher-ons.
I'm really the last guy to like shit on people practicing their chops. I think it's very important.
That's not to compose a solo where you use quote unquote 80 techniques or whatever. You don't even have a chop that you practice. You don't have shit.
Yeah.
It's like you naming. Why is that technique? It's so funny. It's like, how do you break down those stupid things into techniques?
Do you remember when we had the fucking conductor sit in with us?
Yes.
It was like, we were in Louisville, Kentucky.
You see, that's the kind of thing that actually drives me fucking nuts.
We were in Louisville, Kentucky, and there was this, there was a trend. I don't know if it's going to happen again, but it happened like 5 years ago where every orchestra wanted to hire
a young hip
conductor. like every city orchestra, and they hired this guy, paid him a lot of money, put him on
Ton of
salary,
money.
and he was a genius, like.
And he would go and sit in with people like he's a normal person.
Yeah, but this guy was like supposed to be so good that like he could play any
helped
style.
us pack the show. It was before we had our videos even.
Right.
So he packed the show.
Yeah, he came to sit in with us, and the show was packed.
We used to have like 20 people show up to our show, and this show had like 80.
Yeah, and he showed up like in a suit and like this weird like beefeater hat, like a English guard, like a tall hat.
Like what we always talk about, like,
look at me,
I'm precious.
Yeah,
I'm precious.
Anyways,
you must say I'm
this fucking dude. We start playing Redline. It's C minor, right? And the tempo is like boom, and you gotta play like some 16.
Yeah.
And he ate shit so hard on an open jam in C.
Well, open jam in C is very telling.
Very telling. But he ate shit so hard. His time was just, and he's like a concert pianist, whatever. And he was just ate an amount of shit. Like me and Danny were just looking at each other like, what the fuck is
No,
this
but everybody
guy?
decided he's a genius already, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, the audience was deaf. He couldn't.
He was deaf too.
Yeah, he was wearing a great hat and he made funny faces.
No, for him, he was like, I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm a genius.
Just riding this thing.
Look at me how I'm doing it with those jazz fusion guys. Like I belong here.
I can do anything.
Yeah, I belong here.
I can do anything. I can get a salary to prove it.
And he makes more in a year than we all make together before expenses. That's just. I talk a lot about money. There is an Israeli singer-songwriter, and he has a song that's great, and also a friend of ours, a star named Daniel Nissenbaum. He also told us that. He said, and we both said it without knowing each other, about how somebody screams what they don't have. So you talk about what you don't have usually.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. You don't have, you're not fucking, you're talking about fucking. You don't have money, you talk about money.
Are you saying...
You don't have peace of mind. That's why I always keep saying about how little money we make.
Wait a second.
It's also so funny to me.
Are you saying that our favorite singer actually has a dry vagina? Not a wet-ass pussy?
What do you mean? Oh, hell?
Yeah.
No, I think it's deeper. I think she just, she can't keep a man. And because she looks at herself like just like a hole that need to be filled. And if she's gonna make herself into a perfect hole, maybe a man would stay with her. That's what I think she thinks.
Wow. All right. I actually think she listens to the podcast, so I have to apologize. What's her name? What's her name?
Cardi B.
Cardi B. Sorry, Cardi. I know you're a huge Fusion fan. He doesn't mean you have a hole in your heart. Yeah. But what was the previous thing we just talked about? I thought
you don't think it's gonna go there, huh?
No, not at all.
I was saying about how Precious Boy makes more a year than we make together before expenses.
Yeah, that fucking dude. Yeah. Dude, that was an incredible moment. I feel bad because a lot of jazz players think that they can survive a funk kind of open.
Oh, they cannot. We also saw that too.
We saw a lot of people. It's a different skill because there's no, it's a real blank slate. If you can playing through changes, difficult as it is, if you don't know how to do it, it's like drawing a line through a curve. But when there is no curve in the music and you got to make something, you have to use all the things in your toolbox to make it interesting, or it gets so static or so whack,
Yeah. You also have to have way more. Fusion is, especially to play with our band, it's very difficult.
Yeah. There's a certain kind of, it's a really weird machine because you can really make it do whatever you want it to do. It can grow dynamically around your solo, but you got to do something.
I know it sounds weird, but Danny and his girlfriend broke up in 2000. When did you and Kelly break up?
10?
Really?
I think. I don't know.
I guess it was just
10.
before you met Lexi, right?
Right.
No, so
there were 6 months between. Yeah, 2010.
So 10. Okay. So 2010. And he went to Israel. He just skipped on a flight. He was with him for 8 years. He just went on a flight. He went home to chill out, clear his head. But we had one gig. So I got one of the best, and I don't remember his name, but one of the best guitar players in Chicago to fill in.
Uh-huh.
and I did a Marbin show without Danny. How funny is that? That
Insane.
we both thought, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
How was it?
It was terrible because you can't switch you in Marbin. That's exactly the point. That's what I was trying to say. It's like if you think you play all the things you are and you can just jump in and switch me, take me my place or Danny's place, you're gonna discover that Marbin is a whole other animal.
Right.
But they do discover that.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy. It's like I'm saying also to the guy that couldn't do it. It's you discover that there are a lot of things that you never think about when you play this kind of music. Our music is very unforgiving.
Yeah, and I think also a big thing is that the notes you're playing, and when it's time to solo, it's really like you're taking the whole vehicle for a ride, and if you take it the wrong way, it's not the same ride. You know, because our band is very open. Like improvisation really happens, even if it looks like I'm doing approximately the same things. There are these key moments where you veer it a certain way. You do something that creates a reaction with the drums, with the bass. It's a very specific feeling.
You know, a lot of people. That was one of the shows that I've seen. The band would not hit together to save their fucking lives. It drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Right, because they're playing swing, but I was like, nothing hits together. You guys are. It just doesn't sound like you're together. It sounds like you're trying to play the same tempo maybe, but you don't hear each other. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like if you listen to Danny's playing and my playing, and listen to how we hit all the time with the cymbals.
Right.
Right. If we play the same subdivisions, we're gonna hit exactly together. That's just how we play.
Right.
You know, and.
There's also nowadays there's a weird thing that can happen with time, and drummers that practice with a click too much and not enough with people will play with a certain coldness, with a certain distance from you that is so insane to me. It's like actively ignoring the person in front of you. You know, it's really spending too much time with machines and far too less time with humans. You know?
And also figuring out music. Yeah.
Yeah, because playing in time is not playing with a click. That's just something you learn. I guess the big point is that accuracy does not equal perfection, but in a world where accuracy was less possible with digital editing, it seemed like the movement towards accuracy is similar to the movement towards perfection.
Yes, but it isn't.
But it's not that it isn't. It is, as long as it's not aided by non-human means.
Yeah.
You need to move towards your natural ability to be accurate, towards the center of the beat.
Because you do need to hit together. I would say that. You have to hit together.
But together with people, not together with a click.
Yeah, together with people. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's so they could not hit together. And if you bring one of these people, and I think it's common for most bands, and that we've seen, that they don't really hit together, and especially jazz bands. And if you bring one of these people to play with our band, when you really subdivide, and when everybody else, you know, you don't have a upright bass, you have an electric bass, and everybody's subdividing and playing like really in the groove, and you're not hitting the notes in the right place in time. It feels like you can't play, basically.
Yeah.
It's like you have to stop.
Yeah, I fucking hate that so much. Yeah, it's bizarre. Oftentimes I think about the difference between the way we put together our rhythm section and other bands, especially nowadays. And there is a certain aesthetic that's, I would say, partly from 70s funk, but not really. It's later. It's more like 90s radio music, like Red Hot Chili Peppers, where the bass and drums are so locked in that they're basically composed, right? That they're just there are little variations. I feel like most of the variations get edited out in the studio.
Yeah, that's true. If you really think about that music,
and they're doing it very intentionally. Like they're super aware of three things: where the not filler notes, but the actual bass notes sit with the kick, and that relationship, and then that the snare drum stays in the same place, and also with the same consistent sound with triggers.
I have to interject. I've seen a video of Flea and Mono Neon sitting outside, I think in Mono Neon's yard, playing together. Did you see this video?
No.
And somebody commented, somebody said, I'm a huge fan of both. But both are amazing and two of my favorite musicians. But I would hate to sit in this backyard and having to pretend that this doesn't sound like shit.
Hilarious.
I know, it was great. I wish it was me, but it wasn't me. It was
Some
else.
people are geniuses at commenting.
I know.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm saying we never make people play parts. I'm against that. To me, but there's a price you pay for that. There's a certain...
But every other band is funkier than us.
Yeah, it is true. But for me, that's not worth it still. Like to tell people where to hit together, not to just play group. Listen, the beauty of swing, in terms of the interaction of a walking bass or a halftime bass with a swing drummer, is that there is a set of constraints. The rhythms of both is pretty predictable, but there's a lot of harmonic wiggle room on the bass and articulation wiggle room where you throw an eighth note in or do some cool shit like that. And then obviously the drummers in swing are totally free inside the constraint of playing swing. And the real difference between fusion and swing is how liberated the bass part is.
Well,
it's total, and it's a blank slate because they can really do a lot of things.
You know, the fusion that we know, the bass player and the drummer kind of figure out parts. Mm-hmm. So it's very, especially Breaker Brothers, it's completely composed, right?
Yeah.
And then a lot of other stuff, it's really, the bass drum is really composed, and that's why, one of the reasons maybe why it's so funky. Mm-hmm. And in funk, it's definitely like that. Like when we heard the bass player for Corey Wong, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's sick, Great. But it's also
super
obviously worked out.
Yeah.
So, but the question is, can it feel just as good or even better the way we do it? Maybe, but it's not up to us, it's up to John and Everett.
Well, no, the way I see it is that if we keep things loose there, then it has the potential some nights getting somewhere interesting.
Yeah.
Like to me, well,
it's more interesting generally
speaking. To me, as long as the rhythm section is a machine that can make sharp turns, I'm willing to sacrifice how good a section feels and how worked out it is, because it leaves things up in the air even when we're playing heads.
Yeah.
There are no parts.
Yeah.
There's just the aesthetic at the center.
Compared to stuff like Snarky Puppy, for example, but it's completely composed.
It's completely composed. Everybody's going to play thing. They're going to catch this, they need this sort of predictability.
And it has that sound that's
locked in.
Yeah, that has a very powerful thing to it.
It's weird. I think people would assume listening to us that we can't do it, but it's just that we don't. That's a total choice.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, me neither. It just seems ridiculous to me to make electronic music out of our music. I mean, that's where it stays jazz and the organic nature of the parts.
But again, it's like the stuff that it can be as good as a rhythm section make it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like I don't know how good it can get. Basically, that's my point. That John and Everett are the ones. Like, I don't know how good bass can sound in our music. Right. John is the one that's going to decide that.
Yeah.
And if John is going to come up with shit that sounds like, oh my God, check out this bass, then it's going to sound like that.
Right.
And if not, we might say, oh, it's our music. It's because we don't compose the bass part, because we don't tell the drummer what pattern to play. But I don't know if it's true.
Right.
You know what I mean? It might be because of that. It might be because that's just the way they hear it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm reminded of this Thomas Sowell quote, where whenever I think about like bassists and like this people putting together music, when he's talking about intellectuals, he said that the big difference between intellectuals and engineers is that an engineer that builds bridges needs to build a bridge or design an elevator that works, and if it crashes, then it's a disaster and they'll never work again. But somehow that's not true an intellectual. It's also not true of a bass player in the eyes of many people. They're not. A lot of times they do things that don't really work, but nobody's holding them accountable to them. You know what I mean? I mean, even us. Like a lot of times we let it go by. But I think a part of being very good and getting your band really good is addressing things from that lens of work versus don't work. And when John plays something that does not work, I certainly will let him know, right? If he doesn't seem to know.
Yeah, but you don't let him know. You're not going to him and being like, hey, this part wasn't the most awesome. This part wasn't the most awesome.
No, it's true. You're right in the sense that for it to be 100%, it has to come from him.
Yeah.
For it not to suck.
I'm saying you give it a bottom level, basically.
Right. I'm drawing a red line. I'm saying when you do this,
yeah, it has to be better than this. But how good it is, it's totally.
Well, the sky's the limit, really.
It's like that's what I'm saying.
And you bring a different guy, he brings a different approach. Like Victor Wooten would play really differently on that, and Gary Willis would play very differently on that too. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's about it for today. Subscribe to the podcast, give it a 5-star review, 5-star rating, give a review wherever you listen to podcasts.
Why do we need a 5-star review?
I don't know. It's nice to look at. Then
and also so write a review, say something nice.
Yeah, say something nice.
This is fun.
Ha 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 ha! I laughed.
LOL, I LOL'd on the flow. I ROFLLLOL.
Yeah, got my WAP.
Dani and Danny are so young and fresh. We don't really know what the kids like these days.
Yes, Tupac.
We're so connected.
So, also...
What, are we 35? I thought we were 16 because we're so hip.
Check out the music at marbinmusic.bandcamp.com and check us out at Facebook.com/marbinmusic. Stay funky, y'all. All right, see you later.
Stay funky should be our new motto.